pursuit to 100 or 1,000 points continues for McDavid. Will the captain come up with a historic performance? We'll get you set for the Oilers and the Islanders on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Tom Gazzola with you at the EST Satellite Studios in beautiful downtown Edmonton. Hernan Salas back at EST Global HQ on the city's west side as we get you set for the Oil and the Isles. Yes, indeed, McDavid, Connor, in search and pursuit of 1,000 career points. Can he get there tonight? 5 points back? I don't know. Don't say he can't, because he'll prove you wrong. It might be a historic night tonight. Indeed, could become the fourth fastest player and fourth youngest player to do it ever in National Hockey League history. If he doesn't do it today, I think he has a good chance of doing it, by the way, on Thursday. Let's get to this as we welcome you in. GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to ejectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. Great to have GCL Diesel on board again this season on the pre- and post-game show. Join the conversation as always. Hit us up in the text line, 780-218-9999. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, hit that thumbs up as we roll on this evening, getting you set for tonight's action. Let's get in my co-host and our producer extraordinaire, Hernan Salas, in here. Nancito, how you doing tonight, pal? Everything's good?
I'm doing good. I wouldn't say a producer extraordinaire just yet, but...
Well, I see Adam Stanley's on the phone with us right now.
Oh, sorry. That's my bad.
Just teasing you.
See, I was getting things ready, and then, yeah. He's not on the phone right now.
He's not on the phone. We will be joined by Brendan Burke on the phone.
I was telling Trev and Maddie, I'm on a consecutive streak of screwing up on every show so far that I've produced, so... Yeah, it's been a rough ride for good old Hernan here, but... No,
it hasn't. Stop it.
Looking forward to the game. Looking forward to the game tonight. We had Stefan Rosner on, and he gave us a great breakdown. I mean, this team is dealing with a lot of injuries, Tom. They're 500, sure, but this is a team I feel that the Oilers should jump all over. I mean, especially build off that last game. You were able to score a lot of goals, and excited to see them. It's always fun when the Islanders come to town. It's always a low-scoring game, but they're pretty physical, and they're always close, Tom. But I think the Oilers have dominated them here at Rogers Place.
They have. It's not even close, to be honest with you. Edmonton has absolutely had its way with the New York Islanders, and I'm just looking here. The Isles, 2 wins in their last 4 games, 3 in their last 5. So 6-3 overall this season. But like you mentioned, a ton of injuries, and we will get into those shortly. But I don't know. Whenever the Islanders come to town, I'm just like, I guess.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, it's not the sexiest game on the schedule, especially here. But it's funny because I feel like the Oilers dominate here, and then they dominate on the island, right? Like I was thinking back, I think the last time they won there was probably the James Neal 4-goal game.
That might have been it. I'd have to look at it. They don't play there till March 14th, but like you alluded to, the Oilers have absolutely had their way with the Islanders here in Edmonton. They've won 11 of the last 12 the Oilers have versus the Islanders.
Crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So
the home record against the Islanders, too, overall is pretty good. At home, 6-4-0 in the last 10 games overall against the Islanders. It's been a series dominated by the home team, 25-9-0 with 5 ties all time at home versus New York. So yes, it's a series that has been dominated by the home teams, and the Oilers have enjoyed that advantage here in Edmonton. Okay, Belsey will be joining us. He is in for Cass tonight again. And we will hear from Brendan Burke, play-by-play voice of the New York Islanders on the TV side shortly. This is one of 7 games on the schedule tonight. First of 2 meetings between these 2 clubs. Chris Knobloch will play against the Islanders, or face the Islanders like he did in his first ever game as head coach of the Oilers a year ago. In that time, Knobloch has gone 53-25-6. as head coach of the Oilers, and Edmonton, of course, coming off that 7-3 victory in Vancouver on Saturday. The Isles, meanwhile, dropped a 4-3 OT decision to the New Jersey Devils on Saturday as well. The Islanders kicking off a 5-game road trip: Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle, Calgary, and then Detroit, New York. 4-3-1 on the road this season. The Oilers, they could use a home win. Just 2-5-1 thus far this season. Yeah, it's not great. Hernan's laughing over there, and I totally get it.
Tommy, quick question for you, and maybe our nasties. And Belsey, when he joins us, he's ready to go, by the way.
I see
It's been 1 year since Chris Knobloch's joined the team, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you would have to give him a grade, it's pretty damn high, right? It's in the A's. Yeah.
A.
Shouldn't be any.
He's won 53 games. He's gone as great Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Now, we can pick apart these 53 games, go, well, I don't like this. Hey, the special teams are that. We can pick it apart. That's fine. We do it on a daily basis, game to game, on this show and other shows. But you look at the body of work, take a step back, exhale, and you go, he's doing pretty damn good. A. Yeah. For Chris Knob. What would you give him?
Yeah, I'm right up there. Like, and I'm not putting this much of the slow start on the coaching. Sorry, I'm not. I think this is more on the players. He came in, he took over a team that was struggling mightily. 1 win away from the Stanley Cup. He did marvelous things with the special teams and all that. So, yeah, for me, anything less than an A is just, you're being way too critical of this start, which I don't put too much on the. Of course, it's a part of it, Tom, but
it's not a good. It's 7-7-1 isn't great, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I put this more on the players, just not being not being up to speed and up to par where they should be for a Stanley Cup contender. So I'm not going to be too harsh on Coach K. Even a B is too low for him.
That's why I gave him an A. So what are you giving him an A as well?
Yeah.
Is that the question of the night, brought to you by the Latino Heat?
Hey, look at that. It worked out, Tommy. So let's go with that. Yeah, because it's interesting. It's 1 year, the same team for his 1 year anniversary that he started his coaching career in the NHL with. So I think he's been really, really good.
All right. That is the question of the night. What grade would you give Chris Knobloch in his 1 calendar year as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers? They are 7-7-1 this season. Knobloch, as coach of the Oil, is, where do I have the stats? All on my sheet here in our lineup. 53, 25, and 6, of course, in the playoffs, going to Game 7 of the Cup Final. All right, Shawn Belle is standing by. Let's get to starting lineups, goaltenders, and your injuries, and then we'll get Belsey in for game changers. Text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat if you're watching on YouTube. Question of the night via Hernan Salas. What grade would you give Chris Knobloch in his 1 calendar year as coach of the Oilers? Show your work, as Dusty and the boys like to say. We'd like to read those out as we progress through the pregame show. All right, let's get to the Oilers lineup. Chris Knobloch said that no changes, so we anticipate McDavid between Skinner and Hyman. Draisaitl with Podkolzin and Arvidsson. Nugent-Hopkins between Henrique and Brown. Derek Ryan centering Matthias Janmark and Corey Perry. Matthias Janmark, first star of the game on Saturday, by the way. On defense for the Oilers, Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Stetcher, Kulak with Emberson. That means Travis Dermott is the lone man out. As for the Islanders, here's what we expect. Bo Horvat centering Anders Lee and J.G. Pajot. Brock Nelson between Maxim Tsiplikov and Kyle Palmieri. Casey Cizikas between Simon Holmstrom and Pierre Engvall. Kyle McLean with Matt Martin and Oliver Wahlstrom. On defense for the Islanders, Scott Mayfield with Ryan Pulock. Isaiah George paired up with Noah Dobson. Dennis Cholowski with Grant Hutton. Out for the Isles, Hudson Fasching. We haven't even gotten to their injury list because it is long. Let's go to starting goalies before we get to the injuries. For the Edmonton Oilers, 26-year-old Stu Skinner, 4-5-1 this season, 325 goals against average, 883 save percentage, 1 shutout in 10 appearances this season. Skinner versus the Islanders, a 1-1 record, 204 GAA, 928 save percentage in his 2 appearances versus New York. And at the other end of the rink, he's really, really good. 29-year-old Ilya Sorokin, 4-3-2 on the season, 252 GAA, 916 save percentage in 9 games this season. Sorokin versus the Oil, 3-3-0 record, 217 goals against average, 936 save percentage, and a shutout in his 6 appearances versus Edmonton over the course of his career. That takes us now to the Advantage Sports Medicine Injury Report. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. Whether you're recovering from an injury or looking to enhance performance, we treat you like a pro using the same locker room approach, trusted by the best in the game. For Edmonton, Evander Kane, LTIR, abdominal surgery. As for the New York Islanders, Alexander Romanov, day-to-day upper body. He did skate in non-contact jersey today. Adam Pelech, IR, face. Matthew Barzal, day-to-day upper body. Mike Riley, day-to-day head. Anthony Duclair, IR, leg. That is 5 main roster players out of action, including probably their most potent offensive weapon in Barzal, and then a defenseman in Romanov. Pelech, D-man as well, has been pretty steady back there. Mike Riley, bit of a NHL nomad. And then Anthony Duclair, who can be a pretty lethal player when he's out there, also on the IR. That is your injury report, brought to you by Advantage Sports Medicine, our proud partners once again this year. All right, let's get to him. Shawn Belle, our game analyst for tonight, filling in for Matt Cassian. As always, Bellsy good to go inside his office after a long day at the rink. Hello, Bellsy. How you doing?
Hi, Tommy. Hernan. How's it going, boys?
Lovely. Doing great.
Excellent. Glad to hear that.
Doing great. Okay, you heard Hernan ask the question of the night off the top. It is, what grade would you give Chris Knobloch as head coach of the Oilers as he celebrates his anniversary as head coach of this team? 53, 25, and 6 is his record. Bellsy, how would you answer that one?
I would give him an A. Ever since he came in, I just feel like he's kind of put his stamp on this team. There's been times where, he's sat guys that, probably you thought would never get sat in the Oiler lineup. He's had a little bit of accountability. I know that there's been, Draisaitl sat a little bit. I know that Kane was demoted for a while, and when I say Draisaitl sat for a bit, I mean like 2 shifts. But like he's had exactly. He's held guys accountable, and he's come in and he's had a sense of calm for the team. I do think when he first showed up in town, the Oilers were a little bit erratic. It wasn't that they were unstructured or anything like that. They just seemed like they were erratic, and he came down and he gave them that sense of calm, and obviously taking them to one goal away from winning the Stanley Cup is a big thing. And then obviously this year it's a little bit different. It's a slow start, but I agree with Hernan. I can't put that on the coach because At the end of the day, it's the guys that are stepping foot on the ice, and for the last 7 or 8 years, it's a notoriously slow starting team. So for 7 or 8 years, if that's the MO, you can't really blame it on the coach.
Well, the start they got off to last year, 2-9-1, and then they did add the third win right before their coach and assistant coach were unceremoniously let go, Jay Woodcroft and Dave Manson. You'd think that they'd learned that lesson, but I suppose they kind of did, Bellsy, because they're not 3-9-1 getting their coach fired. They're 7-7-1. So,
exactly. They're 7-7-1. So it's better than what they were doing last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, there we go. Positive steps in the right direction. Yeah. And the Oilers coming off a 7-3 win in Vancouver on Saturday night. We'll keep that in mind. They busted through offensively, and we'll see if they can continue that. 2 teams that do not score a lot of goals, these Oilers and Islanders, 2 of the lowest scoring teams in the league. That is something that is worth noting. Goals for per game for these two. 2.67 for the Oilers. The Islanders rocking at a solid 2.47 goals per game.
Oh,
yeah, not great. Maybe we see the offense again, Bellsy. Maybe we see it like we did the other night in Vancouver. All right, let's get to Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting, RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among Western Canadian RE/MAX realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. And that leads us perfectly into number one, talking about that win on Saturday. Pick up where you left off, Belsey.
Yeah, it was a good win all around. Obviously, they unlocked the scoring. The power play got on the board, which is, things that they needed to do. Now, obviously, they gave up a PK goal to make it a little bit worse, but it is what it is because there's a lot of other things that they did really well, and you want to see that continue. You're trying to string a few good games together, and maybe after you string a few good games together, you can go on a bit of a run, which is exactly what they did last season. So for me, it's get out, be quick, be aggressive, be fast, and make sure that you're ready to go. Because if you are ready to go, like you kind of mentioned earlier, they have kind of carried the mail against the New York Islanders at home. So if you can, and they're an injury depleted team. So you want to make sure that you're ready to go. You want to make sure that you're bringing all the good juju with you so that you can put your best foot forward tonight.
I like that. Is it as simple as having a blowout game like that where you pop out for 7 that unlocks it, or is it game to game? No, more.
Well, it could be like there is certain times where it's like all of a sudden you're like, okay, you've just found the magic, and all of a sudden you just start scoring in bunches. So there's the possibility of that. But the one thing that happened was the Oilers came to play, and we've talked about this for the last 15 games. So when the Oilers are ready to play, they're a really good hockey team.
True.
And if they're not ready to play, well, then they can suck the life out of the building pretty quickly. So you want to make sure that if you're the Oilers, you played a great game. You feel good about yourself. Now let's bring that to the next game against the Islanders. And you could argue it's a trap game because it's the Islanders. It's a team that's, generally a little bit, play more boring style. I know Patty Wall likes his up-tempo stuff, but when you have 5 guys in the lineup, you're going to find a way to try to slow other teams down. So this is a team that can be had, but you have to make sure that you show up at the end of the day.
All right, that was point number 1 from Belsey on Game Changers. Pick up where you left off. We'll see if Edmonton can do that tonight against the New York Islanders club that doesn't score a ton either. All right, number 2, Belsey on Game Changers tonight, details and discipline.
Details and discipline. So I started to allude to that point is that you've got a team with the Islanders right now that they don't score a lot. They don't really give up that much. I mean, they're 11th, middle of the league in terms of goals against, but they're a team that clogs up the neutral zone. It's a little bit slower of a pace. It's just slow hockey. We joked about it on Hello Hockey where this was one of the boring teams and Johnny Boychuk was on and he kind of got offended, but he kind of laughed at the exact same time. Yeah. It's who the Islanders are. This is the makeup of their team. They're like the old Minnesota Wild with Jacques Lemaire.
You play on that team.
That's how they play. So you want to make sure that everything you do is detailed and disciplined and making sure that pucks are they're managed properly, making good tape-to-tape passes because this team's going to sit back and wait for you to make a mistake so that they can then try to capitalize on that. So you don't want to beat yourself.
Right.
So make sure you're detailed, make sure you're bringing all the energy that you possibly can, and when they're down, try to snuff them out.
You played for Jacques Lemaire. What was that like?
Well, we went into buildings and we sucked the life out of buildings because it was boring.
Yes, it was. It was painfully boring.
Yeah, but it worked. I mean, at the end of the day, because we forced teams to, to try to do things that weren't them. And when you just clog the middle of the ice and teams have to fight through, to get to the middle ice, it's hard. And it becomes a situation where now they start taking chances because you're so airtight. And then, Kate, there's that turnover that happens. Mm-hmm. Now we go the other way. And it's not like we didn't have skilled players on the team. And once again, the Islanders have skilled players on the team. So those guys, when it's a situation of, being opportunistic, well, here we go, right? So you want to make sure that you're just doing things properly, and that's where those details and that discipline comes in.
All right. It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Shawn Belle, tonight. Game Changers, as always, brought to you by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. Number 1 was pick up where you left off. Yes, indeed. Number 2, details and discipline. As Belsey alluded to, the Islanders can suck the life out of a game. You don't want to do that tonight, especially on home ice, as the Oilers search their 3rd victory at home this season. Number 3, Belzy, I don't mind this one. And a lot of people, I think, are going to agree with you. Can I get a Nuge?
Can I get a Nuge? He's got 6 points.
Woo, woo.
It's not terrible, but at the end of the day, he's worth so much more to this hockey team. He's a guy that's got to chip in because he's secondary scoring, and when he starts chipping in, it obviously it adds to wins because you know that Draisaitl's going to score. You know that McDavid's going to score. You know that Hyman's going to do his thing. But you just want to add more guys to the roster that can chip in offensively and then take a little bit of pressure off the big boys. And usually that's when teams are ultra dangerous, is that when they have that secondary scoring and that tertiary scoring, to steal a line from our boy Anthony Stewart, that's when teams are really good. And for Nuge, 6 points, yes, you have 6 points, but at the same time, I don't think that's enough for a guy of his status.
A lot of fans have, and I've seen it in the inbox and in the nasty chat this season, they've kind of soured on him. Is he, in your opinion, in the fans' crosshairs? Has he become one of those guys that is now a focal point? Anytime something bad happens, they automatically look at him? Or how do you see his game this season? Because like you alluded to, the points aren't there. To me, his feet don't look like they're moving the way they can. I don't know, Belzy, you'd have a better read on this, but he seems to be a lightning rod of controversy on a lot more nights than usual this season.
I would say he's probably like 3rd or 4th down the list of players that get that catch a little bit of the grief from the media and the fans. Nuge he's the longest serving Oiler. He's a great human being off the ice. He's a good player. So I think there's a little bit of rope for him because of those things.
Right.
But at the same time, you kind of said it, you hit the nail on the head, actually, is that he's just not moving his feet. And there's tendencies for him to play a little bit slow. But if you're not going to be playing on a line with Connor McDavid and you're not going to be playing on a line with Leon Draisaitl, well, then you need to now start to move your feet because now you're basically on a checking line. Right. And you've got to now do things to help your team. And it can't be, coast all over across the ice because you get lost in that shuffle. So move your feet, start using that shot that's actually really underrated, and go from there. And once again, start to feel good about your game. But it's just something that he looks off, and it is what it is. So hopefully he can get going, but I don't know if he's quite whipping boy status.
Okay. All right. I wanted your take on it, obviously. Natso, anything for Belzy tonight from you?
No, I think we're good. I mean, Belzy knocked it out of the park with the game changers. I agree with everything he said, and hopefully they can build off that win. I think that's the big one for me, guys, is we've seen this team, what do we call it on Saturday, Tommy? Fat and sassy? They start sassy. Yeah, they feel good about themselves after scoring 7, and then they come out and lay an egg. So I'm hoping they can build off that and keep her going, right? It's the same lines. There's no excuses, so we'll see what happens.
All right, here's a text that comes in regard to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Comes in from Eden. If you want to text us, you're listening on your way home from work maybe, or you're making your way from some adventures with your kids, text us 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, get into the nasty chat. Tom Gazzola, Shawn Belle, and Hernan Salas with you. Eden says, hey boys, it's not even about offense with Nuge. It's just overall play in general. He's struggling to get out of first gear. Eden, I agree with you. Belzy, you want to touch on that?
I agree. I mean, it's just he looks like he's got a bit of a hitch in his giddy up. It looks a little bit tentative going into battles, and he looks a little bit like he's 1 second too late, and that's usually when things are going bad. So I completely agree. There's not really much more you can add to that statement. His whole game needs to get a little bit better, and it starts by moving his feet because that's part of his game. If you can do that and start to engage and play into people's equipment, well, maybe you'll start to feel better about yourself and you start to, chip in offensively and actually just get your game back in order because he's a big part of this team and they need him.
Absolutely they do. Belzy, a couple things really quickly. Brendan Burke coming up at 6:30, but getting Janmark off the schneid a little bit with a 3-point night. Connor Brown having a 2-goal game. even Derek Ryan getting in on the offense. Corey Perry scored. A game like that where you could spread it out a bit. What does it do for guys?
Well, I think it does a lot. I mean, you saw last year when Connor Brown scored. I mean, think about how much pressure he was putting on himself to score a goal, and you could see it in his game. Like, he was double clutching on shots, he was missing wide open nets, he was doing a lot of things that, you know, guys that are lacking that confidence that haven't scored would do. And then all of a sudden he scores, and he's a completely different player. You know, although he was also coming off a pretty gruesome injury, so. You know, that's part of it, and he was kind of getting himself back into, you know, game mode. But scoring goals and being able to chip in, it really helps everybody, and it builds everybody's confidence, because for too long here in Edmonton, it's always been about just scoring with Connor and just scoring with Draisaitl, and a lot of guys would take a passenger, you know, back seat to those guys and allow them to do their things. Well, they're a better team now, and when guys can chip in, then maybe those guys can have an off night. But when more guys are chipping in, it makes the Oilers lineup very hard to deal with, and it makes them realistically the team that we've talked about all summer long into the preseason, a team that is very deep and probably one of the best forward groups that Edmonton has seen since the 80s. So that's what you want to see. That's what you're hoping for. And it's good to see guys like that be able to chip in offensively.
I like, respect, and appreciate when goals come from all parts of the lineup. A lot of the goals for the Oilers come from this particular part of the lineup. Connor McDavid, we need to get your thoughts on this. He is 5 points away from 1,000 in his career. Shawn, he's got 339 goals, 656 assists, and 995 points in 657 games. He could get there tonight if he has an offensive explosion, and sometimes the best players save it for like a milestone with like huge magical nights, and this could potentially be one of them depending how he's feeling and how things are going. But he would, listen to these numbers, Belsy, he would become the 99th, ironically enough, player in league history to hit the milestone, and he would be the fourth fastest to do so behind Wayne Gretzky, who did it in 424 games, Mario Lemieux, who did it in 513, Mike Bossy, Islander great, at 656. The next closest is Peter Stastny at 682. McDavid will very likely beat that, which is absolutely incredible. And then he would also become the fourth youngest player to do it in NHL history. So that would be amazing on a couple of fronts. Yep. 99th overall, like, Belsy, come on. And then against the Islanders,
the irony, and like, that's just crazy. Like, that's it. Too many stories can be written about that, but obviously what a special talent, and to be able to get to watch him here in Edmonton is it's obviously amazing for the media, for the fan base, and you hope that he just does it in one game and then he can just move on. But Connor is also the type of guy that at least right now seems to me that he doesn't care about those individual accolades. Now, all athletes say that, but in the back of your head, you're probably sitting there being like, man, this would be pretty cool. So I hope he gets it within the next two games personally, but it's been unbelievable to watch him play. Like, what an absolute stud of a talent.
3 points the other night against Vancouver. And if it lines up tonight, I would be like, well, it's magic. It's meant to be. Yep. And then I'm pretty sure we're talking about this at least by Thursday when they take on the Nashville Predators.
Without question.
Yeah, he could make it happen tonight, which is cray-cray. But don't ever count him out or expect him to do one thing and go negatively towards him, because he'll shove it in your face. That's
100% he will. He's the type of guy that literally, I'm convinced of it now. Every single year he's like, I'm going to do like 150 assists. And then he's just like, check, easy.
Yeah.
I'm going to score 70 goals. Check, easy. So 5 points to me is not really a big thing. So, if he really wants to do it, I think he possibly could.
Yeah.
But once again, I just think he wants wins more than anything else right now. So I hope he does it tonight, but it's going to happen at least by the weekend.
Yes, indeed. I'm with you there 100%. Belsy, excellent stuff. Great catching up with you. We'll talk on the post-game show.
Sounds good. Take care, boys.
All right, that was Shawn Belle, our game analyst, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. You can text us 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, get into the chat there. Tom Gazzola, Hernan Salas with you. Brendan Burke standing by. Islanders TV play-by-play man as we get you set for tonight's action between the Oil and the Isles. First of two meetings on the season. New York 6-6-3. Edmonton 7-7-1. All right, let's get Berkey on here. Berkey, first of all, welcome back to town as always. Great to have you here. I know you and Jack Michaels were hanging out as you tend to, and that's always good to see the two of you getting together at the rink. What do you make of this McDavid stuff? I was talking with Shawn Belle, and I said it'd just be so McDavid of him to go off for a 5-point night and get it done and taken care of tonight.
Tommy, you got to get him back here.
Okay.
His phone cut out. I'll let you know once he's back.
All right, sounds good. In the meantime, I'll read some text. 780-218-9999. Coach Mike says, I like that Knobloch continues to keep 29 and 97 on separate lines. Hope the Oilers can go on a bit of a heater. Scalding Gord texting in says, as an Islanders fan since 1973, I've seen it all, but this team has real issues scoring, and if they happen to get a lead in the third, they rarely hold on. That was true before the injuries. They will live and die by goaltending. Ryan texting in from Saskatchewan says, boys, I'm munching some numbers here. Long text, but the penalty kill. I will preface this with the fact that I am a Skinner supporter and not a detractor. Oilers 5-on-5 team save percentage 913, which is 15th, and 4-on-5, which is 686. Obviously 32nd. Yeah, PK is terrible. Not close, awful. To compare, Carolina, for example, 14th best 5-on-5 at 913. Save percentage is 910 on the PK, which is 5th. Oilers are second in the league in goal in high danger chances. There are some structural issues on the PK, but numbers would suggest they need better goaltending. Timely saves. PP will come around. So shooting percentage, but need to fix the PK. It starts in goal. Enjoy the game. Ryan from Sask. I think the whole PK, whole PK sucks for the Oilers, Ryan and Sask, but he showed his work, backing it up with some numbers. Stu Skinner and Calvin Pickard make an extra save here or there. Could go a long way. All right, Berkey's back. Berkey, I saw you earlier hanging out with Jack Michaels. Always good to see you guys together. Berkey, we were also talking about Connor McDavid. Could he pop off for 5 points tonight and hit that 1,000-point plateau, becoming the fourth youngest and fourth fastest to do so? Are you thinking we're going to see some magic tonight, or are the Islanders going to be able to keep him off the board? What say you?
Let me put it this way. I would be surprised if it happened, but I did all my research, and I'm ready for it if it does happen. So I'm kind of hedging my bet there.
Oh, man. Okay, let's flip it over to the Islanders. Injuries all over the place. A 6-6-3 start. How much of this start is injuries? How much of it is special teams? How would you sum it up through a month of regular season action, Berkey?
Yeah, I mean, the injuries aren't ideal. I think that the loss of Anthony Duclair after 5 games was a bad way to start, right? They were just starting to get some traction with their new top line with Barzal and Horvat and Duclair. And then they pulled Duclair off that line, and he's done for we'll see how long. And that was really the first blow where they were struggling to score. The underlying numbers have actually been pretty good. The expected goals, the high danger defense, a lot of those things were good. They just weren't finishing to an extreme, right? You get shut out 4 times the first 10 games of the year. That's really hard to say you're playing well. But they were. Watching the games, the eye test was differently. So they didn't get off to a great start, and then they got hit with the injuries. And in a span of 2 games, they lost Matt Barzal and their entire left side of the defense. So I don't know if there's a team in the league that can absorb losing 3 left-handed defensemen in 1 game. And the Islanders have not done poorly since then. They've actually played pretty well since then. They're 4 wins in their last 5 games, or 3-1-1 in the last 5 games with missing all those guys. And they're just kind of figuring it out. I think the one great thing that's come out of all these injuries is the emergence of Isaiah George, who will play his 4th NHL game tonight at just 20 years old. He's a guy that was the 3rd call-up from Bridgeport, and now he's playing 24 minutes a night. So he's been the nice bright spot to come out of all these early season injuries.
Brendan Burke joining us, TV play-by-play man for the New York Islanders as we get you set for tonight's tilt. Text us 780-218-9999. We have discussed the penalty kill at nauseum here on the pre- and post-game show and the rest of our station. The power play, too, which has shown a few sparks here and there. What is more concerning from an Islanders point of view overall? I know we talked about the injuries, Berkey, but what's not happening on the PK, and then how about that power play, trying to get that thing going?
Yeah, I think the bigger concern is the penalty kill for the Islanders, just because they were 32nd in the league last year. I mean, they had a historically bad penalty kill last year. They made a change with the coach. Doug Huda's gone. Tommy Albeline's now in charge of their penalty kill. And it's just as bad. I mean, it's not improved, let's put it that way. And it's a lot of the same guys. And it's a lot of the same guys that were with this team 3 years ago when they had a very good top 10 penalty kill. So it's a head scratcher, and trying to figure out why and how to fix it, I think is concerning, because they've tried a lot of different things to try and get it on track, and they just haven't quite gotten there, the results they've needed. So I think that's the big problem. The power play is not good either. And I think that, obviously, I think there's a belief that they will come along. They will, when they get some pieces back. If Noah Dobson starts getting the offensive juices flowing, he hasn't necessarily produced offensively like he did last year. So I think there's hope and belief that the power play will come around. The penalty kill is just a broken part of their game until they fix it, and we'll see how long that takes.
Hey, Berkey, 59% on the Oilers side of things on the PK isn't good. So, the opposition's good for one basically every single night. Having said that, kind of in jest, but not really, would the strategy, from what you understand, be against the Oilers to try to force them into taking penalties, considering how bad Edmonton's PK has been? Do you think that that's Patrick Waugh's kind of MO in tonight's game?
No, I think it's probably the opposite. I think it's for the Islanders, they want to play as much of this game at 5-on-5 as they can, because they're not great on the power play and they're not great on the penalty kill. So I think they just want to play 5-on-5 as much as they can and keep 5 players on the ice that McDavid will have to skate through on his way to the net. I think that's probably the biggest thing for them. So either team takes a lot of penalties. They're both bottom 3 in the league in terms of the number of penalties taken. Butch Gorey, my partner, and I were kind of joking around a hypothesis that maybe these teams just need to take more penalties and get more practice on the PK to try and improve it. They don't get enough chances to try and kill off some penalties. I don't think that's necessarily the way to go. But maybe at this point, they've tried everything else. Maybe both these teams try taking some more penalties.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Shawn, okay, I'll throw this one at you too. This one with our game analyst, Shawn Belle, says, he said he watched the Islanders and he goes, this is a team that tries to suck the life out of you during a game. So, like you alluded to, 5-on-5. Do you think that that's a fair statement, or is it more so the Islanders just kind of trying to hold on while the injury bug continues to work its way through this lineup?
I don't know. I think that's just a reputation that's followed them around from the Barry Trotz era, where they did try and win every game 2-1, and they've just not managed to shake that reputation. But this is a very different team than those days. I don't see them as a team that tries to suck life out of games, and they don't try and hang on in the third period and lock it down, because they've been unsuccessful at doing that. They try and push, they try and score. They don't score as much as they'd like to. But I just don't see them playing that type of game. I think they have to try and balance all, when to take risks and when not to. And, they don't have this stalwart defensive game that they have right now, obviously with those 3 guys out, to try and suck the life out of a game. So I think they don't want to necessarily play a track meet, that's for sure. But I think that they're an older team, much like the Oilers, but not as much speed. So I think there's a lot of parts of their game that may be not as exciting as maybe an Oilers game that they want to play. But I don't necessarily think that they're going to try and win this game 1-0.
All right. About all the knocking of the PK and the power play that we've discussed over the last 10 minutes, do you expect this to be a highly entertaining game, or do you think it's going to be a methodical, slow-going game? What's your thought going into this one? Is McDavid going to turn it on its head? What do you say, Berkey?
I don't know if that game in Vancouver on Saturday was truly the can opener game that Draisaitl said it was, then it should be very interesting. I guess from an Islanders perspective, this is the first game of a 5-game road trip. They've come all the way out from being at home. They're playing 9 of 11 on the road by the time this is all said and done. So it's an important game for the Islanders to get off on the right foot and try and keep things going in a positive way. They're coming off a loss against the Devils in a game they blew and had a 2-goal lead late in the third period.
Right.
But they're still 3-1 in one of the last 5. They consider themselves on a positive swing right now. So I think they want to get out and get after it. So I think the first period is going to tell us a lot about how the rest of this game is going to go.
All right, the Islanders 4-3-1 on the road. Edmonton 2-5-1 at home. We'll see how these two handle tonight's game. Brendan Burke, always a pleasure, sir. We'll see you up in the press box. Thanks as always, pal.
All right, buddy. Good talk to you.
All right, that is the play-by-play voice of the New York Islanders, Brendan Burke. Big thank you to him for stopping by here on the Oil Stream pregame show, brought to you by GCL Diesel. Keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. Tom Gazzola, Hernan Salas with you, popping into the nasty chat. It's humming along okay. Let's bring in Hernan here. Nanso, anything that Burke said that really stood out to you? I mean, a lot of similarities between these teams. And I want to see offense tonight, but I don't know. Like the numbers, like Burke was saying, don't really back it up. Maybe try to keep it at 5-on-5, and that seems boring to me. And add to the fact everything Shawn said earlier during Game Changers. It's
Yeah, it's not a sexy game here. We're not I do think it's going to be low scoring as it usually is, and then. I'm just quickly trying to look up the last couple of games against the Islanders because they haven't been high-scoring games, right? Like 4-1, sure, 4-2, and then 3-1. So it's always around that range, right, Tom? And what I'm intrigued at is, and we heard it earlier with our guests, and then now with Brendan Burke, their whole left side's gone on their defense. So there's And here I know you and I and a bunch of us that do this show and like Belzy, and we all said no more excuses. And the Owls, hey, they're going out there and they're playing 500 hockey. They're not scoring a lot, but they're getting the job done. They still got one of the better goalies in the league, Tom. So it's a good test for Stuart Skinner to go toe-to-toe with Sorokin. But when you compare the forward groups here, man, it's the Oilers all day long. And like I just mentioned, they're without 3 really good defensemen. The Oilers got to jump all over that. And, yeah, I mean, for the Oilers, how do you get the PK better? You probably want to be on it a little bit more to work on it. But, Tom, we've seen this team. They can give one power play and they'll get scored on. So I don't know what the answer is. They got to keep working through it. And we saw the frustration. I think every show today talked about Skinner putting up his hands, kind of shaking his head at Darnell. But I get it. And,
we talked about it on the postgame show. Yeah. Darnell went like this and batted the puck like just a gentle little swat.
And right at the Vancouver player.
Right to Elias Pettersson.
So I think we all said we're all okay with, as long as you're not doing it all the time like Mike Smith was. But I didn't mind it because I think he was frustrated with Nurse, but I think overall he's frustrated with the PK because he's a part of that. And I think that's why he put up his hands and saying, like, come on, guys, we're up 7-2 and we still can't kill a penalty. Like, let's go. And like you said, Tom, it was a very poor play by Darnell Nurse, who we're 15 games in, and I think overall he's been a lot better than he was last year, Tom. So I think that's a positive for the Oilers, but he's got to get those little mistakes out of this game that are costing the team a goal or whatever. But at that game, it didn't matter, but it shows that it matters to them, Tom. Because people are like, I saw it online, people were like, oh, why is Stuart Skinner getting mad? He's such a sore loser. I'm like, because they care, and they know their PK stinks. That's why.
It's awful. It's 59%.
Yeah, like
it lets one in almost every 2 opportunities.
I wouldn't want him laughing that off and being like, "Oh, we're up 7-2. Who cares?" No, because the PK stinks, and he's a big part of it. And I think he's just frustrated as the other guys. And you saw Darnell kind of just stand there and kind of look at him saying, "My bad." Like in his head, he's probably like, "My bad." Like that was a terrible play by me. Yeah. So yeah, Tom, I'm intrigued. We asked our guests too about the Russian guy they have there, Maxim Siplakov, 26 years old, had really good numbers in the KHL. He says he's struggling with the speed a bit just because it's a different game. But I think he's 6'3", 210. He said he's really good with the puck down low. He's physical. So he said to keep an eye on him because he's been quite he didn't say a surprise, but he said it's a player they thought that would do well, but he's kind of exceeded expectations early. So keep an eye on him. He's on the second line tonight.
Yeah, 9 points in the 15 games he's played, 14 PIMs in that time. Text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat. Ro Nelson asking, has any player improved individually with career-type years under Knobloch? The team has had best team success going to Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals. Players have had low seasons, many on par for career worse. Well, Zach Hyman scored 54.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty good. McDavid had 100 assists. First time that had happened since, the mid-90s. Draisaitl had a 100-point season.
Yeah, I don't look at Bouchard's numbers last year.
Bouchard had a career year.
I don't get the Knobloch's been here for a year, guys. Like a year, not even
On the dot.
And not even a full season yet. So, let's pump the brakes on the coach here. Like, this team, the players need to figure it out. They've gone through, 4 coaches, Tom? And it seems like every time they struggle, it's the same thing. So stop putting it on Chris Knobloch. I think that's low-hanging fruit to blame the coach at this juncture. It is. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but
5 coaches, Hernan, McClellan, Hitchcock, Tippett, Woodcroft, and now Knobloch. What is the constant here?
And every time they struggle, we're having the same conversation. The details, the defending, it's the same thing. So it's between the ears with these players, guys. Coach Knobloch has been fine. That was the question of the day. It's his 1-year anniversary today. And if he gets anything lower than he shouldn't get, and he shouldn't even be in the B's, Tom. It's an A or an A-, whatever you want to call it, because he's been really good. And yes, I know they've had a slow start, and sure, there's enough blame to go around. The coaching staff's a part of that, but for this slow start, I'm putting it more on the players than the coaching staff.
He still gets an A. That is the question of the night. What grade would you give Chris Knobloch for his 1 year of work as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers? I gave him an A. Hernan gave him an A. I think Belzy gave him an A as well. Let us know your thoughts. 780-218-9999. The Oilers and the Islanders, one of 7 games on the schedule tonight. Tom Gazzola, Hernan Salas with you. Around the league right now, Ottawa leading Toronto 3-0 late in the second. There was a lot of talk, Nanso, about that one being like a physical affair and a lot of chippiness. The Sens taking care of the Leafs right now. No Austin Matthews, who's on the IR for Toronto. 3-2, the Jets lead the Rangers late in the second, going into the third. Florida down 1-0 to the New Jersey Devils. 12 minutes remaining in the second period there. No score yet between the Blues and the Bruins late in the first. And then you got Calgary and Vancouver, Seattle hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets. All right, Nanso. Anything else you're seeing here via the nasty chat or the inbox that you want to hit on?
Yeah, Easy E says B-. Roy Keane says a B+. Let's see here. Matt Hyman says definitely an A or better. Jasmine says A. Come on, we went to the Cup for Pete's sake. That's what I like. Yeah, I know they didn't win it, but and to come back from 3-0, I mean, you got to take it all into account here. So I think overall Knobloch's been really, really good. But to each their own. If people think B with room for improvement is a suitable answer, then sure, Tom. I mean, that's probably based mostly on this year. If you're dropping to a B, because you wouldn't do it for last year. There's no way.
No, not with a 16-game winning streak, an 8-game winning streak, where they have a 5-game winning streak. They went on an absolute massive tear. So, it's interesting. I mean, we're going into Game 16 here. No, the Oilers haven't been as expected.
Mm-hmm.
They've had some good moments. They don't score enough. Their special teams are atrocious. But these are things that we have not or had not anticipated going into the season. I don't know. I think the coaches prepare them. I think like you said, Hernan, they've ripped through 4 different coaches and now they're on their 5th.
That's what I mean. And it'd be different if every year it was something different, but it's always the same.
Right.
And it's the core guys that are still here. So no excuses. You just got to be better. And you got to find a way to score on the power play. You got to find a way to kill off a penalty. You got to find a way to get the big save when you need it. I don't need 5 big saves a game, Tom, but if it's 2-1, you need Skinner to make that next one, right? Whether you're up 2-1 or down 2-1, you need him to make it. And then you saw it a bit in Vancouver. You got some secondary scoring. You need more of that. You need Enrique producing, Janmark producing, and they're not. I get it. They're not here to lead the charge offensively, but they have to chip in when the other guys are not going. And Tom, I'm intrigued to see Jeff Skinner's game tonight after a bit of a demotion in Vancouver there. He better be jumping, because even though I wouldn't say he was terrible, I just think he fell out of favor because other guys were going better than he was. But I don't think Jeff Skinner was terrible in Vancouver. I think it was just a coaching move where he felt this guy's going a little bit more tonight. I'm going to make the change.
That's Jeff Skinner.
Yeah,
that is his MO.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're expecting solid two-way play, responsible at both ends of the rink, that's reading the wrong scouting report on Jeff Skinner. He's an offensively gifted player that has thrived and benefited playing with some really talented offensive drivers, and that's what he was brought in to do. Is he always on it? No. Does he have off nights? Yes. Did he have one the other night? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be right back up there, and he might surprise it. He might go out and have a good game. It's kind of the frustration of Jeff Skinner, the anomaly that is Jeff Skinner. You know, I remember Joe DiBiase being like, don't expect him to play sound defensive hockey and don't expect him to drive his own offense. Oh. He's a mercenary. Like, he goes in there, he goes in for the kill, and that's offense. And if it's not happening and he makes a mistake in the D zone, I'd be like, yeah, well, that's Jeff Skinner. He's been doing this for 14 years now.
Tom, what last game? I know they got a power play goal. What did you make of their power play? Did you think it was a lot better, despite even though
a little bit better? I'll give it credit for getting that goal, and they did set it up. And then the first goal of the game, Draisaitl scoring, that was on the tail end of a power play where they were getting some looks. Yeah. So yeah, I'll say that was a step in the right direction. Absolutely. I don't want to just dump all over it. I'll say that it took a step in the right direction. PK was with one kill, and then late, they totally blew it.
Yes, they did. Roll Nelson says last year an A, this year a C, so overall a B. Okay, that's reasonable. Easy E says slow start last year, coach fired. Slow start this year, A++. Okay, boss, sure thing. Coaching is and was never the issue. Sure, that's fair, but you're comparing a 2-9 and 1 start to a team that's 500 through 15 games. Yeah. They're two completely different things. Easy, it's not the same. And yes, a lot of last year, I'm not saying it was all on Woodcroft, but that was an atrocious start, Tom. And whether you agreed with the move or not, and remember, a lot of you were asking for a coaching change. A lot of people were. Okay, and I remember listening to you guys when it went down. Like, a lot of you thought it wasn't necessary at the time because it's the same players going through the same struggles.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Their backs are against the wall. They wake up, this group. And, we've kind of seen them teeter with that a little bit through the 7-7-1 start. Maybe they had enough of a scare or enough of a flashback to last season where they're like, all right, enough of this. We're going to pick it up, and maybe that win against the Canucks is the catalyst for that. So we shall see. Oilers Ferd gets this last word in via the text line. Says B+, A for last season, B for this season. Face it, he's been given a diamond, and it's up to him to at least make it shine. Fair point, Oilers Ferd. Thank you for the text. Your goaltenders for tonight, Stu Skinner and Ilya Sorokin. The Oilers look to continue their dominance over the Islanders at home. They split the season series last year. The Oilers, in their last dozen games at home versus the New York Islanders, a very, very impressive record. They've won 11 of the last 12 here in Edmonton versus the Isles, and we'll see if they can continue that trend tonight. Can McDavid hit the 1,000-point plateau tonight? He needs 5. Could be the 4th youngest and 4th fastest to do it. He could still do it on Thursday as well. But you know what? This might be a magical night. He would become the 99th player all time to hit 1,000 points in the NHL. Kind of fitting, don't you think? And if it's against the Islanders too, it's meant to be. Then it's meant to be. All right, that's going to do it for the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, whether you listen on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Apple Music, of course, EdmontonSportsTalk.com's online player, and then watched on YouTube. You know we love you. You know we appreciate you. For Hernan Salas and Shawn Belle, I'm Tom Gazzola saying thank you. Enjoy the Oilers and Islanders. We'll see if we're talking about McDavid 1000 on the postgame show. Ciao for now.